Ready? Yeah, all right. Okay, let's take a round. I'm Jack, Cancer.
Adora, Aries.
Russ, Capricorn.
Mike, Aquarius.
Jim, Taurus.
Marilyn, Gemini.
Samantha, Sagittarius.
Okay. Marilyn, you're new to me. How much astrology have you had? So.
I haven't had very much at all. I've had my chart done recently. And
yeah, but you haven't had good.
Introduced me.
Okay, because we're kind of on a beginning nuts and bolts level, and it's imperative that that everybody learn all these things, because when we start delineating charts, you're going to have to know this. Okay, this is like when you were learning a foreign language in school and you had to learn things like the goulash of my uncle is in the...
How to conjugate French words.
Yeah, is in the pocketbook of my aunt, you know, that kind of thing. So this is kind of a memory thing, but try and go along with us, and please, if there's any questions, don't hesitate to ask. Okay. All right, we're working on the perfect wheel, putting the planets in the houses. This is in every astrological textbook. But as we go through this, I'd like us to discuss any questions we have. Feel free to bring up any questions. Okay, remember we talked for the past couple of weeks about the correspondence between Aries and the first house. That any planet in the first house will have somewhat of an Aries flavoring, no matter what the constellation appearing on the cusp of the house is going to be. It'll be somewhat like Aries. Any planet in the second house, even though it's not Taurus, would have some of the flavoring of Taurus, okay? The third house would be, although not Gemini, would have some of the flavoring of Gemini, okay? And so on all around the chart, okay? So keeping that as a backdrop, let's continue. Let's talk about Mars in Aries, and also Mars in the first house, because you can kind of substitute one for the other. Okay, Mars in the sign of Aries, wherever it is going to be. Now remember, Mars rules Aries, okay? So it would be very comfortable and function very well in its own sign. Okay, the planet Mars, okay. Energy over spirit, okay, the circle of spirit. This is energy, the arrow, force over spirit. It is blind energy. Mars is energy that's either constructive or destructive, okay. If I punch somebody in the nose, we might say that's destructive. That's a destructive use of energy. If I took a hammer and I banged a nail into something while making or repairing something, we would say that's constructive. Okay? In either case, the energy used is Mars. Mars represents raw energy, just like raw electricity that hasn't gone into a wire yet to be used to light something or to turn something. Think of Mars as raw energy. Okay. So anytime it's in Aries, it's going to be aggressive. You're going to have a quality of aggressiveness. Okay? It's going to be argumentative, self-assured, outspoken, impulsive, independent, reckless, gadget happy, mechanical ability, marked self-interest, and impatient. These are the kinds of descriptions you could use when you have the sign, the Mars in the sign or constellation of Aries, anywhere in the chart, okay? But when we put Mars in the first house, okay, what are we talking about? The ascendant. We're talking about that first house, the way the person walks into what I call the cocktail party of life, the ascendant in the first house. See, Cancer always uses the food metaphor. To me, life is one great big cocktail party. It would be courageous, a person with Mars in the first house will be courageous, energetic, self-starting, pushy, quick-tempered. He would have administrative ability. He would be ambitious and could be tactless. Why? So there's some positives and some negatives here in terms of talking about people. Since it's energetic and Aries is so full of energy, the person is not going to think about other people. Hence, we'd call such a person tactless. Would that describe somebody who didn't have any sense of tact? I think so. He'd want his own way. It's what he wants to do, regardless of the consequences for other people. And if he's going to get along in this world, he's going to have to learn how to restrain himself at some point in life. Okay. The reason why they said Mars, when we talk about Mars and Aries, mechanical ability, Mars represents machinery. Okay. Mars has a lot to do with machinery. And why machinery? Because machinery is always doing something with energy, right? You put energy into a machine, whether it's a clock, an electric clock, or a gasoline engine. That machine is doing something because of the energy. Okay. Now, but Mars in Aries is for the most part comfortable, or Mars in the first house can be, when the person learns how to control himself, can be comfortable, so that would make him, give him that energetic, courageous kind of temperament or personality. Okay, Mars and Taurus in the second house. Now, Taurus is Earth. Remember, Aries is fire, a fire planet and a fire sign, okay? But now you take Mars, which is a fire planet, and you put it in an Earth sign, and you got some problems. Because fire and Earth puts out fire. So the Mars cannot express itself. That energy is dampened, you see. So you put it in Taurus, and what happens? What do we know about Taurus? What does Taurus do to the Martian energy? Well, makes it stubborn, passionate, can have some practical abilities, can be vindictive. Why? Because Mars also rules Scorpio. And when we're talking vindictive, we're talking Scorpio. And Taurus is its opposite sign. Is able to sustain an effort, a smoldering temperament, and organizing ability. Okay? Now there's some positives and negatives here. And I don't necessarily agree with them all, but the idea is to get an idea of what the text is saying here, and then you'll come up with your own derivations. Mars in the second house strives to possess. Okay, I can deal with that one. Mars is the energy, Taurus is the house of possessions. What you own is signified by Taurus, or the second house. And what you own can be anything from money, cars, houses, or your talents and your ability. Nobody owns your talents. You own them. So your talents and abilities can be shown by the second house. Okay. Strives to possess, must learn to budget, because Mars is very reckless. In the second house, you have recklessness with money. What do you have? A person who can't budget. So it needs to learn to budget. Can make and lose money with equal speed. It doesn't say whether it's quickly or slowly, and I suspect that it's going to be slowly, because Taurus slows down Mars. It's like a ship trying to go through mud rather than through water. It's going to be slowed down. But with Mars and Taurus, the person is going to have an energy that is going to need to involve him in possessions and possessing things. He's going to think about what he owns. Any questions about that?
Yeah. How about if Mars was on the ascendant of
Okay, bring it up here then, the first house.
of Taurus, so that it's right there between Aries and Taurus. Then would it be a little bit of both?
Well, here's the kicker. let's say it was, you're saying
Just
What-
over the line in Taurus.
just over the line.
Yeah.
That
just
sticks it in Taurus. That would put it in Taurus. Anything that's just over the line, that line is a dividing line, you know, either you make the 10 yards or you don't.
It's a fence.
Yeah, that's the door. These are the doors. These cusps are the doors to the house. Well, it's already gone through the door,
Uh-huh.
so that's where it is. Okay, now Mars in Gemini, or the third house. Okay, that's a wild one. Sign Gemini. Let me put the house numbers. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, Mars in Gemini. Sharp, incisive, keen intellect, and manual dexterity. Quickly responds to situations, nervous and satirical. Okay? Now we take fire, the fire planet, Mars, and we put it in the air sign of Gemini. What happens when you have fire and air?
Bigger fire.
Fire and air, what happens to the flame? Combustion. The air helps fire, right? So therefore the Martian energy is going to be where it's dampened in Taurus, right? Because you're throwing earth on fire. The fire is getting more air, like a bellows, okay? So the fire energy is going to be greater. Well, we didn't get your name.
Sharon.
Sharon, are you new in astrology? Or?
Sort of. I'm a typist for Tom. I type up a lot of the charts.
Okay,
So Tom kind of invited me to come.
What's your sign?
Cancer.
Welcome, that's two of us.
Thank you.
Okay, now, so that bellows, that air is going into fire, the fire is going to flame, but where? In the third house, or the house of communications, right? So when we think of the third house, we think of Gemini, or communication, or thinking, right? That's what Gemini is associated with. So hence, the speech will be sharp, the thinking will be incisive, that energy jumps to the point in the thinking. Where in Taurus, the thinking might be slowed down, slow but sure. In Gemini, the thinking will be quicker because of the air that it picks up. Manual dexterity, why not? Gemini rules the fingers. And one of the things they say about Geminis is they're either very good piano players or very good pickpockets. Magicians, fingers, manual dexterity. Typing, manual dexterity. So that's Gemini. Okay, you put Mars in there, you've got a person who has very good control over his hands. Okay, now, and because the thinking is so quick, you'll respond quickly to situations. Like in a basketball game, the ball is coming this way, what should I do with it? You know, the thinking will be very, very, very quick, you see. Nervous, okay. Gemini, okay, is the thinking. You get a lot of energy into the thinking. The thinking goes fast, so fast, okay, that the person reacts very, very quickly. And so he would appear to be nervous. There's a difference between a Gemini and a Taurus, very interesting. Geminis are all over the place, okay. Taurus is slower, okay. That's why Geminis are prone, and with Mercury, the ruler of Gemini, ruling the nervous system, the nerves in the body and the nervous system, you pump a lot of energy into those nerves, you're going to have a person who can't sit still. Okay? So we say he's nervous. And satirical. Okay? Nobody can come up with a wisecrack faster than a Gemini. Bob Hope. Gemini. The Gemini mind is, I think, in my opinion, the Gemini and the Aquarian mind are the fastest minds in the zodiac. And what is the thing about humor? What's so funny about humor? Humor's quick. The wisecrack that deflates somebody. The wisecrack that puts somebody down. Some clown is telling how great he is. Along comes a wisecrack, usually from a Gemini. And he just flatters the person. Flattens him and he's out cold, deflates the balloon. That's that Gemini wit. Why? You take all that thinking, okay, and you make it quick. And what's the funny thing about the wisecrack? It's timing. Somebody says something, somebody makes a wisecrack as soon as it's said. That's what's funny. But if you said those same words 2 hours later, they won't be funny because they have no relevance to the situation. That's the difference between a comic and a humorist. What a humorist says is always funny. What a comic says is only funny at that minute. Okay? All right, now let's jump to the Gemini in the third house. Again, thinking of the third house, we always think of Gemini. Quick, keen mind, educational and literary interests. Why? We're thinking. Thinking has to do with it. We take that thinking and we put it into a school, into a textbook. And what do we have? Education. The third house also tells about your early school years, okay? It tells about your thinking processes and for their formation early in the life. So we're talking about school. Not always logical. It can't be, because the mind is going too fast. Logic is based upon a sequence of events that are all parallel to each other, and then you have to see the whole picture. Gemini will see the pieces and jump from piece to piece, but not see the whole picture. So that's where it's not logical. The mind is hasty, nervous, and high-strung. So Geminis are the highest-strung people. They're strung tighter than tennis rackets. And they extremely nervous because Gemini rules the nerves. And particularly Geminis are very sensitive to, for some reason, to fluorescent lighting. It drives them crazy. It makes them crazy. They cannot stand it. There's something in the vibratory rate. Okay? Again, Gemini is, when you see Gemini, we think of duality. Why is it we see the twins, two? So no matter wherever Gemini is in your chart, there's a duality. Gemini on the 7th house cusp, you can marry a Gemini. Or you can have 2 wives, or 2 husbands, or marry somebody who has 2 personalities. Okay? So always think of 2 when you think of Gemini, a duality. Okay. Any questions? Okay. Let's move on to Cancer. By the way, the symbols represent the pillars of the temples of learning in Gemini. The two up and down lines. And I think when they use the symbol of the 2 monkeys for Gemini, go to the zoo sometimes if you're a Leo and watch the lion for a little while. You'll really get in touch with them. And if you're a Gemini, go to the zoo and watch the monkeys, because they're funny. But there's that Gemini, that restlessness about them, that unpredictability about them, which is what you have in Gemini. It's the secret of their charm. Delightful people. They can have 2 telephone conversations like this. They can go. It's all based on nervousness, on that quick nervous energy. Okay, Cancer. Cancer people can be described, or the 4th sign of the zodiac, as emotional, moody, needs security, sensitive, ambitious, sensuous, domestic, tenacious, interested in the occult. Okay, let's play with that. Cancer is ruled by the moon. The moon represents the female part of us. In males, it represents the female part of the male person, okay? Represents the mother, okay? The moon in a male chart will tell the kind of woman that would be attracted into his life, because it describes the way he received and gave love and received love from his mother. Hence, the archetype of the mother will extend into a male's life. Don't worry, ladies, you're not excused from this, because Mars in your chart will show the relationship you had with your father. And the place of Mars in your chart sets up the archetype or the style in which you will give and receive love with a man. We woke up everybody with that one. Okay. All right. Okay, now. So let's look at it. The moon, emotional, moody. What is it said? The ever and constant moon? Shakespeare. The moon is always changing, right? Hence, the emotions. Since the moon rules the emotions in a person, the emotions change with the moon. So if your emotions are always changing, you're not in the same mood. Okay? All right? Moody needs security. Absolutely. Why? Cancer relates to mothering. And it shows the part, the constellation Cancer shows the part of you that needs to be protected, that needs to be looked after, that needs to have somebody look after you. Okay? Who is the big protector, the first big protector you come across in life? Mother. She's the first protector you've got. Unless, of course, a person has been raised in a situation where there was no mother and father played the mother's role. Okay? But that will show where you try to protect yourself and you need security. Okay? Sensitivity, sensitive, because of that, the moon, the emotions being so sensitive, Cancer standing for the emotions. Ambitious, okay, being the fourth house, or the house of, also the house of property and real estate and what you own. So Cancer is also materialistic. That's why many Cancers end up very wealthy. We got a lot to look forward to. We keep our money in the mattress because we don't trust banks. And very insecure, extremely insecure, because Cancer is the place we look to in the chart where we want protection. And if you have the sun or a lot of planets in Cancer, strange thing happens to you. Either you are mothering somebody or somebody is mothering you. The concept of protection, of nourishing, of looking after somebody or being looked after. Okay? Sign Cancer. Now, it's domestic, because Cancer is the sign of the home and mother. Tenacious. The symbol Cancer, incidentally, has two meanings. The breasts of the mother, and also the claws of the crab. And don't mothers hold on long after they should have let go? Isn't that a big problem psychologically with people? Yes. And the crab will hold on to something, and he's holding on, you chop his arm off and he's still holding on to it, when it would have been smarter for him to let go. So what do Cancerian people do? They cling to the past. As I've told you many times, my life speed is 500 years ago. And what was good enough for my great-great-great-grandfather is good enough for me. Right? Okay. We live in the past. Hence, Cancer will have an appreciation of history. Study of the past, you see. Romantic. Why? The emotions are rooted in the past. The emotions are rooted in fantasy, romance. Okay? That's fantasy. Love is real. Love is here and now. Romance is fantasy, you see. Okay. And interested in the occult. Okay. Now the moon represents our unconscious, the unseen. Okay. The occult, the word occult means unseen. When something is culted, it is seen. When it is occulted, it is unseen. So when we talk about when we talk about the occult, what are we talking about? We're talking about astrology, numerology, tarot cards. We're talking about ghosts and things that go bump in the night. We're talking about ESP, okay? We're talking about past lives, right? We're talking about our relationship with God, right? None of which is physical, okay? These are things that are non-physical or metaphysics. Metaphysics means non-physical, okay? And therefore it becomes under the heading of the occult. And occult means simply unknown. But when something, see, I don't know why they call astrology occult, because it's known. What's occult about it? It's no secret. Well, years ago it was, okay. So that tells you about the sign Cancer. Now the fourth house. Okay, well, we take the Mars and we put that, all those things go for Mars and Cancer, and Mars in the fourth house. Now Mars doesn't express itself well. Why? We've got a fire planet and a water house. What do fire and water make? Steam, sizzle. It doesn't express itself well, okay? Women with Mars and Cancer usually have problems with their mother. Don't get along too well with their mother. Why? Cancer is a sign of mothering. You put Mars, a lot of energy, and they'll usually have some kind of a hang-up with the mother, or the mother will have some kind of a hang-up with them. Okay? And because of their poor relationship with mother, it can affect their relationship with males, with men. Okay? Because she hasn't fully separated herself from her mother psychologically. So she carries her mother into all her relationships with men. Okay? I'm getting loud silence here. Okay, everybody's going to look at them. At the same time, men with Mars in Cancer will also have a problem with their mother, or may be, since Mars is a sexual planet, maybe attract a woman to them who is very much like their mother as a wife, girlfriend, mistress, whatever. She'll have a lot of the qualities of mother in her. The relationship is not a strong one because of the fire planet in the water house, so it can fizzle. Difficulties in the home life. Right, Mars is energy. You take a lot of energy and you put it in a situation where people need to get along with each other, like a family situation. You mess it up with all that Martian energy, and you can have difficulties there. Desires independence, yes. Likes to accumulate. Let's face it, gang. Nobody accumulates stuff like a Cancer. Every Cancerian probably has a Fibber McGee's closet someplace, or a drawer, or a box with strings, silver paper, nuts and bolts. I found this in the street, and I may need it for something. And probably do. Cancers and Capricorns just have these Fibber McGee's closets, and we never throw anything away because we may need it. And so that's why but we also accumulate other things too. We accumulate books. We accumulate clothes. We're always, why? Because it's a sign of the home, protection. My needs need to be met. And that's why Cancers never get enough of anything. So they're always accumulating. Okay, active, combative, driving. Okay, I'll put it this way. With Mars in Cancer, you can be very overprotective of your children. You might be 95 years old, because that's a sign of mothering. So when we give a person too much mothering, what are we doing to them? We're saying, you can be 95 years old and a grandma, but I'll still be your mother, and you'll still talk respectfully to me, and you'll still come to my house at 9 o'clock. And And I don't care where you've been, but under my roof, you will follow my rules. Does this sound familiar to anybody? Okay. And I don't care if you were the President of the United States, bam, bam. Right? That's that overprotection. Why? You take the energy of Mars, you put it in the sign of motherhood or parenthood. Okay? Because I don't want to pick on the Mother Day's coming up. And you overprotect, because Cancer's the sign of what you're protecting and who's protecting you. Okay. Any problems? All right, let's go into Leo. We'll take Mars and put it in sign Leo. This is the tail of the lion. Lion's tail. Put Mars in there. Now we have a fire house, a fire constellation, Leo. We have a fire planet of energy. We got a lot of action in Leo. Temperamental. I disagree with that a little bit. Fearless, I agree with. Loves excitement. Tremendously self-confident. Leans towards speculation and has personal magnetism. I agree with all of those. I have a little hard time with it, with temperamental. Okay, fearless, loves excitement. Okay, this is the house of fun, of what you enjoy. The fifth house shows what you enjoy, what gives you pleasure. Okay, and you take energy, add more energy. Just as we did in Gemini, we added a lot of air to Mars, and the fire went up. We add fire to fire, right? And we got a conflagration going, okay? So that you have this excitement and confidence. We said before in other lectures that the fifth house is the house of your personal truth, okay? Self-expression, okay? So you're very, very confident about what you're thinking, what you're feeling. And the fifth house is also the house of gambling. So with Mars in there, you'd take a bet. Somebody bet you could jump off the roof, you would do it just to show them. Somebody double dares you, you'll do it with a lot of confidence, like nothing can stop me. I can fill an inside straight. I'm going to roll, get my number when I roll the dice. It's a gambling kind of thing. Why? Because speculation, and you give it more energy. Speculate on the stock market. You know, bet which raindrop goes down a window faster. This is like a gambler, a person who gambles in life, but he has so much confidence in himself that he's going to win. You see, whether he does or not is another story. And that makes a person magnetic. Why? Leo, ruled by the sun, which is the ego. What does Leo say? Look at me, aren't I pretty? Am I not beautiful? Am I not handsome? Puts on the best clothes, is always on stage, even when they're off stage, is going to get your attention one way or another. It's the acting and performing. It's the show off, except for one thing. You're not showing off if you can do it. It's not bragging if you can do it, you see. So it's always that self-confident thing. Now, Mars in the fifth house. Oh, I said it before. Loves to gamble and speculate. May have difficulties with children. Okay. Why? Because you identify so much with your child that you become the child. That's my kid who's out there, who's pitching the no-hitter. It's almost like I'm pitching the no-hitter, but I'm not pitching my kid is pitching the no-hitter, not me. They have an inability with Mars there to separate themselves from their children and identify very much with their children, almost as if the child's playing out there is an expression of themselves. Okay? So you have to watch that to be able to separate themselves from their children. Passionate, absolutely. Self-indulgent, why not? If sex is, if the fifth house tells one about the enjoyments one has with sex, why shouldn't it be passionate? Self-indulgent, yes. Mars is the energy of the first house. Me, 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 me. And this is what I enjoy, I enjoy, I enjoy. I want me, me, me to get more, more, more of what I enjoy, I enjoy, I enjoy. You get that connection? Okay. And capable of leadership. Okay. Mars, we said Aries leads before in the earlier lecture. We take the planet of Aries, the leader, put it in the fifth house where one can see this leader. Okay, so everybody says, let's follow him or her. Okay. Any questions?
You're doing fine.
Thank you, but has anybody got any questions about anything I said? Okay, we'll continue. Virgo. Oh, and one thing, if you want to kill a Leo, if you want to destroy a Leo, Leo's are show-offs. You got to understand that. Leo's a part of you in your chart where you're showing off, where you're saying, hey, you know, I'm it, and I want you to know about it. And our society puts down showing off, right? We're always supposed to be very shy and modest with people, and we're never supposed to brag on how much money we've gotten and how great we are. You see, our society puts you down if you do that. So we learn not to show off. Okay, but it's a natural part of you to show off. And one way or another, you're going to express your Leo, and you're going to find some way to attract attention, like a child who's ignored. One way or another, whether it's setting the curtains on fire, beating up his baby brother, he wants your attention, and he's going to get your attention. One way or another, that's the Leo. Okay, so since Leo has got to be paid attention to, and Leo loves humor, when a Leo tells a joke, just look at him like this. You'll kill him. I've done this to them. They die right over. Because Leo's got, that's the part of you that's got to get a response from somebody else, and the kind of response that you want.
Or ignore a Leo.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's why I said when they said, tell a joke, just look at them. Oh, did you say something? We got into the tank.
That doesn't work. I would just say, hey, I like the joke. I don't care what you did or not.
Yeah. Or another thing with Leo, step on the punchline. Well, yeah, they go. Everybody knows that joke. They die. The Leos are going to get me. Okay. Virgo, or Mars and Virgo, the sixth house. Virgo, the Virgin. Okay. Loves details. Well, Virgo, we spoke before as being the house of details and meticulousness. And wherever you have Virgo in your chart, so you got some good things, you'll be very meticulous about certain things in your life. Loves details, shrewd, critical, analytical, nervous, could become cantankerous in old age. Okay, let's look at it. Okay, Virgo is the house, we said before, of discrimination. Okay, what part of the body discriminates in the food? The Virgo ruled part, which is the intestines, which discriminates between the waste products and the food, the substances with food value that we need. Okay, so wherever we have Virgo, we have that discriminative quality. Okay. Okay. And Virgo is ruled by Mercury, the planet of thinking. Now we take thinking and we take energy. Now when we think about something, okay, in detail, we can be very critical about the parts of whatever we're thinking about, or the little bits of what we're, like I didn't like this line in the play. I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be negative criticism. or you're able to separate and isolate out parts of the whole, okay? Can analyze, because when we take something apart, we analyze it, okay? Could be nervous, okay? We talk about nervousness. We're taking Mercury, which rules Gemini, okay, and also Virgo. We're taking that energy and we're putting it into a place that has to do with health, okay? So that it could affect the nervous system, hence a person could be said to be nervous. I'm having a bit of difficulty about could become cantankerous in old age. I'm trying to figure out where that one comes from. I know Virgo has to do with health. With Mars in there, I don't know where the old age part comes in, except Gemini, Virgo. I'm having a hard time with that. I really can't stand behind that statement.
Could that be early burnout too, or?
I don't know, because you got an Earth sign. You see, like Taurus, Virgo's an Earth sign. You see, and I really don't know, except that Mars could mean surgery. Wherever you see Mars, that could be surgery. Okay.
How about combativeness?
In the sixth house,
Yeah.
it's a succeeding house.
You've heard of people venting their spleen.
Yeah, right. It could be. Okay, Mars. Because I know people have been cantankerous since they've been born, and maybe they mellow out with old age. I have a hard time with that one. Okay, now think of Mars in the sixth house, a hard and methodical worker. Okay, I can buy that. Virgo is a house of service. Okay, that's where you serve other people, where you're an employee, where you have employees, but it has to do with work. Okay, we take energy and we put it into work, so we would have a hard worker. I mean, I'm methodical. Why? Because Virgo is very meticulous, so I would say that could be methodical. I have no problem with that. Subject to fevers, wounds, cuts, yeah, I buy this. Burns and inflammations. Okay. Should learn not to overtax the strength and may expect too much from coworkers. Okay, this I buy. Okay, Mars represents burns. Okay. Fevers, wounds, cuts. Where Mars is in your chart, translated into medical astrology, is a place where you might have a problem, a medical problem, or have had surgery. It's very interesting when I go talk to older people and seeing their charts. I say, "Have you had surgery on your foot, or have you had surgery in your abdomen, or in your chest?" And they'll say yes, and that's the place where Mars is. Or an injury to that part of the body, because whatever injures something in your body, if you hit something, that thing represents Mars, okay? My Mars is in Leo, and I was born with a damaged heart. So wherever you see Mars in your chart, you have to translate it health-wise, as having had some kind of a problem in the health area. Okay. Inflammations. Okay, let's talk about strength. Since your general health is described by the sixth house, describes your overall health, you throw a lot of energy in it and you're overworking the system. So you shouldn't push yourself with Mars there. And also, since you're putting so much of yourself, Mars ruling the first house, the natural first house, being in the sixth, okay, you're taking a lot of yourself and you're throwing it into the job, and you expect everybody else to do the same thing. Well, who says they have to work as hard as you work, So you may expect too much from the people that you work with, thinking that because you work so hard, they're going to work that hard too, and they can say the hell with it, I don't need to do that. So you might expect too much from other people in the work area. Okay, any problems with anything I've said so far?
Jack, would Mars in the 6th be more nervous than Mars in the 3rd, or?
Okay,
or
all
vice
right.
versa?
Mars and the 6th. Remember, both the 6th and the 3rd are houses of Mercury, right? They both relate to Mercury. But this is an Earth Mercury, right? Because this is an Earth sign. This is an air Mercury. And again, we run into the old problem. One planet's standing for two different things. Okay. So if you pull in, if you want to go nervous, okay, I would say the nervousness would appear in the intestinal area. Okay. There would be some kind of a problem in the intestinal area on a medical basis. With the Mars and Gemini, I think there would be more of a psychological problem. Why? Because Gemini is more related to thinking. You see, so you got your choice of physical disability or mental disability. You know, you pick it. It depends on how and I hate to cop out, but I am copping out in a way. It depends on how the rest of the chart reads, because we don't know what planet is on the cusp there. And then you got to read the angles between the other planets. That's what makes it difficult to make a general rule. Okay, Mars in Libra or Mars in the 7th house. Remember, Libra, the only non-living sign in the zodiac. Does not mean that Libra people are dead. It means it represents the balance that has to exist between all of the energies. Okay? Mars is perceptive, friendly, dislikes disputes, good at teamwork, survival instinct, attracted to opposite sex, needs good education. Now I'm having a little problem here. All right. Libra is ruled by Venus. So we have a Venusian overtone to Libra, okay? Libra is the peacemaker, okay? Ruled by Venus, it would relate to peacefulness, to calmness, to aesthetics, okay? Now we take Mars and we put him in. We give that energy, and it comes out like, I love peace. You know? And I love peace so much, I'm going to go to war to keep the peace. Because I love peace. You see what I'm driving at? In other words, instead of being, I love peace and I enjoy peace and I love it nice and quiet, you come on the other way, you see? That Mars gives that peaceful intention, that energy. You see how these things operate? Okay. Attractive to the opposite sex. Okay. If you're over here, this is you. The 7th house is the beginning of other people. Everything below here relates to you. Everything up here relates to other people. So if this is your marriage partner, and since astrology doesn't officially recognize marriage, recognizes relationships, this would be a person you would live with, okay, of the opposite sex, Mars and Venus, the house of Venus, the loved one, the person you love was represented by the person you enjoy. It's very interesting, is the 5th house. The person you love is, is the 7th house. See, astrology's got an answer for everything. Okay, you put Mars and Venus together, instant attraction. And I've seen this happen. People are instantly attracted to each other when the Mars of one person and the Venus of the other person are in the same position in the zodiac. It's instant attraction. It's the people who meet across the crowded room.
When they have a conjunction?
In conjunction, yeah. That's the hottest connection. Gangbusters.
Mars and Venus conjunct. Huh?
Yeah, Mars, Venus conjunct. It is why? Mars is the male energy of the female. Mars represents the male counterpart of a female. Okay? Venus represents the female counterpart of the male. Okay? It's what they each see in each other, and boy, you got the chemistry. I've been through that so many times as an observer, I got to tell you this because this is funny. This happened a couple of times where I've introduced people to each other, and all of a sudden I knew that I didn't belong in the room. It was time, and if you have ever introduced anybody to anybody like that, check these charts and look for the Mars-Venus. So they could be Mars trine Venus, which is not that strong. But you get Mars dead on Venus.
What about a square?
Oh, I'd pay money to watch the fight. I'd like to have to sell the seats. But that is the hottest sexual attraction you can get. So that's why I have no problem with this.
What about opposition?
Mars, they'd be
Like a square?
opposition and square. There could be a problem between them, a difficulty between them. Like they'd be attracted to each other, but the closer they get, it's like Clark Gable and what's her name, and it happened one night. And Loretta,
Called it.
they were always fighting. The closer they got to each other, the more they fought, and then because they kiss and make up in the end. But the closer they get to each other, the more they fight. You see.
Which is better, male Mars and female Venus, or vice versa?
My guess is that the female Mars and the male Venus. Okay. Now I don't know why needs good education. It says here needs good education. I don't know where that comes from. Venus. Okay, this is Venus. It rules Taurus and Libra. Mars rules Aries, Scorpio, and I just have a hard time with that. Except that since Libra has to do so much with aesthetics, I don't know. I just don't know how to deal with that one. Or needs a good education to deal with aesthetic values, maybe. But I just don't have a hard. I just can't relate to that. But Mars in the 7th, combative in relationships with others. Okay. Why? Mars is energy. Okay. You put it in the house of other people. That means you could be fighting with other people a lot. Okay. You might. Your personality may be one that you're constantly in turmoil with other people, or create turmoil where other people are concerned. Sometimes can make an early marriage. I can understand that. Why? Because with Mars, the energies of being attracted to other people, okay, in a partnership way, well, you call that marriage or marital relationship, and that can happen very early because the person is always into that all his life. See, can tend to dominate. Why? Because Mars represents your energies being constantly thrust at another person. So because of all that energy you're putting on this other person, you can be dominating them. Can be enterprising. Represents Aries in the house of Venus, which is now I'm stretching it now. I have a hard time with that one. It can be enterprising with other people, yes. If we're going to talk about people, enthusiastic and may lose spouse. Yeah, because they're so dominating. What spouse would want to stick around? I don't know. But Mars here represents energy, represents conflict, and it depends on how you use that energy, how you resolve those conflicts. But wherever, as Bob Skeet says, wherever you see Mars, that's where the pot is being stirred. Okay, there's always some action going on there.
Would a seventh house Mars seek a combative mate or
It could, you may seek a combative partner. And now that you've been fighting so much, now you break up because you can't stand the fighting anymore. Or you may want to have to stay together because you enjoy the fighting so much. People are weird. You know, haven't you ever said those two should be married? No, people always fight with each other, and they say, why? What are we saying? That people will necessarily stay together so that they can fight with each other. They enjoy it. You know, they enjoy it, and that's fine too. Many marriages have stayed together because the people enjoy fighting with each other, and they're certainly not bored with each other. And if the fighting doesn't get out of hand, it could be fun, particularly the making up. But that combat and argumentation would be a very important part of the relationship, you know. Okay. Mars in Scorpio, the 8th house. Okay. Ambitious. Highly critical. Powerful emotions, perceptive, must learn self-discipline in order to be constructive. Okay, let's look at that. In the 8th house, ambition. Well, the 8th house is a property house, and with Mars there, see, Taurus and Scorpio are property houses, okay, are business houses. Why? Because Taurus is your possessions, Scorpio is Libra's possessions, okay? All right, so that can be ambition to own. Now, this house is the house of other people's property. Scorpio is other people's property. You might be involved with other people's property as an agent, okay? You may be involved with other people's property through inheritance, okay? So I can understand that. I have no problem with that. Highly critical, well, Scorpio is the house of Pluto, okay? So we take that Mars and we put it in the house of Pluto, which is very, very deep, okay? And I don't know about the critical part of it, but Pluto does have a tendency to take things apart. It explodes them. So you might be able to explode somebody's arguments. You might be able to take apart something that somebody says in a critical manner. But I'm stretching it. I'm not in complete agreement with this. But I can understand why they would say this. Powerful emotions. Okay, that I can buy. Why? Scorpio is the most emotional planet constellation in the zodiac. Okay? Ruled by Pluto, the most powerful planet. So with Mars there, we take this energy of the self and we project it into that kind of an environment. And I can understand what they say by a powerful, almost obsessive, because when we talk about Pluto, we're talking about obsession. We're talking about Scorpio. We're talking about obsessive behavior. Remember one thing, Scorpio doesn't forget or forgive. It gets even. So in order for you to wait 20 years to push somebody off a cliff when they're not looking, you would have to have an obsession about that person. Okay, so I can see where it says powerful emotions. Yes, because powerful emotions would lead to that kind of behavior. Okay. And at the same time, because Scorpio is the part of your horoscope, or where you rebuild, where something must die for something else to live, or for elements to be recombined, okay? I would say that the person, in order to become because with this, you have a kind of a destructive tendency, so you would have to learn to control your destructive qualities so that you can invert those qualities and become creative. And so when they say self-discipline, yes, I can go along with that. I have no problem with that. You must become aware of your own destructive tendencies and transmute them into something that is very positive. Okay. Okay, I'll cap this off with the 8th house. Strong sex drive. Mars in the 8th house. Strong sex drive. Why? Mars is I want what I want when I want it, and the house of sex. Okay, so that would make for a powerful sex drive. Difficulties in legacies or inheritance and legal involvements. Okay, no problem with that. Mars is where you upset things, so there might be a difficulty with a will. If somebody left you money, there might be some problem with a will. Okay. And since wills have to do with the law and courts and legal involvements, there might be some difficulties there. No problem with that. Mystical, no problem with that. Scorpio, a house of mysticism. You have 3 houses of mysticism, or constellations related to mysticism. Cancer, Pisces, and Scorpio, the water houses. So with Mars up there, the person may have a mystical bent, be involved in the occult. Remember what I said about the unseen things in life that are represented by Cancer, also by Scorpio, except that this has to do with death and transfiguration, transmutation. So these are things that go on below the surface that we can't see. May be attracted to surgery or psychology and will probably die violently. I have a hard time with that one. That's one of those old stock phrases. But since this is the house of death and transformation, Mars is steel, that something might hit you, hurt you, fall on you or something like that, and you die. I have a lot of difficulty with that. I don't accept it. And as time to time as you go along in your astrology textbooks, don't believe everything you read and don't believe everything that astrology teachers say. Thank you.
Yeah.
Good job.